Hello, my name is George Alonga, and welcome to another episode of DevOps with George. In this channel, we'll learn about DevOps and necessary tools, practices, tweaks, tricks, cheats. Okay, that's probably a tongue twister, but basically we just learn together. So stick around, and hopefully you learn something as well. See you around. Hello, folks, and welcome to this video. So today I'm going to be talking about GitHub Copilot CLI. Now, if you wonder what GitHub Copilot CLI is, it's basically just a CLI experience for GitHub Copilot. Okay, so if you're already using GitHub Copilot in your code editor, the CLI is just a terminal interface to that same experience. Basically, what it does is it translates natural languages into shell commands for you. So you can just communicate with your terminal in human natural languages, and it understands it and can interpret it and give you shell commands as a result of that. So if you don't know what GitHub Copilot is, then you should go check it out. It's an AI assistant that kind of auto-generate suggestions for you as you code. And so in this video, I just got a technical preview. The tool is basically still in technical preview. If you go to the website, the GitHub Copilot CLI website, you see it's still in technical review. But I just got access to it, so I decided to do a video and just show you how the tool works, what are the features that are supported, what is not supported, and see how useful this tool can be. Okay, so without taking so much of a time, we're just going to jump into it. So like we already said, it translates natural language to terminal commands. And some of the cool things I like about it, it gives you some context, for the suggestions that it gives you. And you can either decide to accept or not accept it and apply the suggestions and run the commands if you want to, or decide to copy the commands out and make some modifications to them before you actually run them, which I find really cool. We're just going to go ahead and set it up. I'm going to leave a link to this in the description, so if you need to go through all the steps I go to set this up. So the first thing we need to do is to install the tool. Okay, so now we're just going to jump right in and see how we can set up this tool. But before we get into that, I want to say, so there are 3 different modes in which the GitHub Copilot CLI operates in. And the first is the arbitrary shell commands mode, where you can access it by just typing $! And we're going to be testing all of these out so you see what that means. And then you have the Git mode, which is more specifically used for generating Git commands. And then you have the GH mode, which is a combination of the previous 2 modes of operation. So let's just install the Copilot CLI first of all, and then we can begin to see what we can do with it. So npm install global GitHub Copilot CLI. Okay, so that's installed. The next thing we need to do is to authenticate our terminal with our GitHub account. So I'm just going to copy that in again, paste it, GitHub Copilot CLI auth. So first command installs the GitHub Copilot CLI. The second authenticates us against our GitHub account. So I'm going to copy that URL, right? Head over to my browser and just paste that in. And then I need to enter the code I have in here. So I'm just going to copy out that authentication code and paste it in the browser. Okay, copied the wrong thing, so head back. I'm just going to copy out that code and back on my browser, paste, and continue. And it asks me to authorize. I'm just going to say yes. Okay, I'm connected. Now let's head back to our terminal and see. Okay, looks like we're connected. So now we should have the GitHub Copilot CLI tail. Okay, yeah, we have that installed, and you can see the version you're running on. We're on version 0.1.29. Now remember, this is still in technical preview basically, so it's not yet generally available. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to set up some alias. So how we were able to have access to these 3 different modes of interaction with the GitHub CLI tool is by setting up this alias. So we're going to do that next. And I'm just going to copy that out. And so if you paste this in your terminal, this is going to set up this alias for you, but it's only valid for your current session. So to be able to persist that on subsequent sessions, you'll need to edit your bash RC or your Z shell if you're using Z shell. and add that in there. In my case, I already have it in there, and I can show you if I just print out, well, what's the print out? Let's just do a nano. And if I go to my ZSRC, at the bottom of this file, you will see I already have it in there. Okay, so awesome. So that's all you need. Now that we have that, we should be able to begin to run some of the commands for the GitHub Copilot CLI. Okay, so the first thing I want to try, I have some examples here I've set up that we're going to walk through. And the first one is we're going to find all txt files in the directory. So let's try that. So we're going to paste that in there. So these are the functions that initiates the mode that you want to run in. Now remember, the first mode we're testing out is the arbitrary shell commands. So this should generate shell commands for us for the activity that we want to do based on the natural language that we provide. So find all txt files in this directory, and we have an output. So it gives us a command and an explanation. Now the command is a suggestion that tells us what we can run to find all the text files in this directory. And I know this is correct because I do know some Linux shell commands. Okay, so I know that is correct, but however, we can test it out. So let's revise this. Something I find really nice is this revise command here. So you can use it to tweak how the CLI tool works or operates. You can change its mode, not really changing its mode, but you can kind of guide it through. If you play with ChatGPT, you know how you can kind of guide the conversation around the answer you're looking for. So that's kind of what this revise query is for. So I can use that right now. And for example, I can say find the files in the desktop directory instead. Okay, and you can see it updates the command suggestion, and now it gives me the explanation which says find is used to list files, desktop specifies directory. So the revise command, I find it really helpful. You can use it to tweak what your original query is, and then it gives you a nice output. So I'm just going to revise that again and say find in the current directory, because that is what I want. And then I can run the command. If I'm satisfied, I'll click on run, and it prompts me if I want to execute it. I'm just going to say yes, and then that's executed. Now I don't have a txt file in this directory, so you can see that it didn't find anything. But we can test that actually works by just creating a txt file. So I'm just going to do touch sample.txt and then run that again. Okay. And I'm just going to say yes, run the command. And you can see it run the command and it prints out the txt files in that directory for me. So that works nice and good. The next use case I have here is we're going to try to create an empty Node.js project using that. So I'm going to head back in arbitrary shell mode, create an empty Node.js project for me. Create an empty Node.js. Okay, so it prints out the command, which is correct. That's how you create an empty Node.js project. I'm going to revise the query a bit and say create the project in the test directory. Now I do not have this directory already, but again, it knows the directory doesn't exist, so the command is to make directory test, cd into test, and then pim run y, which is correct. And if I tap on yes and create that, you can see creates a package.json file for me in that directory, and I have the files in there. Okay, just like I expected. I can print out the package.json content, and you can see it's a standard npm or Node.js application. Okay, so that's it for that. I'm just going to remove that directory because I don't need it. Okay, so that works, which is nice. Now let's give it something more technical. Create something more technical. In this case, I'm asking it to create a file for me with that content. So I'm saying create a file called sample.txt with the content hello from the sample copilot test. Okay, so that's the command and it is correct. So I'm just going to say yes, yes. Awesome. So if I print out the content of sample.txt, now I have that in there. And I can run another command and say find the string hello in the sample.txt file and replace it with yellow. Now let's see if it can do it. Okay, so like you expect, it's picking the correct Linux command, which is sed, which you can use to replace, and replacing that string to this in that, which looks correct. And I can tap on yes. Now we have an error. Okay, unterminated substitute pattern. Alas, we have a sample txt file in there. We're saying we want to replace hello with yellow, and it generated a code that doesn't work. GitHub, what happened? Okay, so let's fix this. Now I know why this is failing, because I know I'm on a Mac, and this command right here will not work because on the Mac there's a slight difference in the syntax. So let's see if we can fix that with Copilot. Again, and this time let's try to revise the query. Let's say I am on a Mac terminal. PSD. Yep, actually did fix it. So I told it that I'm on a Mac terminal, and it updated the command to the correct syntax, and now it has a space. It has the empty code string, which is required when you're on the Mac running set. So run the command, yes, and this time it works. Cat sample.txt, and our replacement actually works. So you can see they just need some fine tuning, but actually it's actually pretty neat and it works. Now let's look at the second mode of interaction, which is using the Git. Now this is used for generating Git related commands, so more specifically Git related command. So if I do a Git, I can do something like create a new branch from the current branch. Git branch, new branch, which is good. So you just use this mainly to generate Git related commands, and we're going to test out a few more options. And for this first one, let's tell it the name of the branch. Let's see. The name of the branch is test. Okay, it actually modified, which is correct. Now I don't want to apply that, so I'm just going to cancel. But this basically is used, the Git mode of interaction mainly is used to create or generate a Git command. So I'll say, how do I rebase 5 previous comments, for example, and generates the command for me right there. And one of the commands I used to use more frequently is actually the removing of items that have been added into your cache. So let's try that. So if I say git, how do I remove an item that has been committed to git remove item. Okay, and most of these commands work pretty clean. It's GitHub Copilot. It's not accurate, but you can actually modify and tweak it to give you the kind of results that you want. And the final mode of interaction is GH. Now the GH is mainly a combination of the previous two from what they say, but I kind of find it really leaning more towards the GitHub CLI. So if you've used the GitHub CLI before, the CLI tool is what you can use to create repositories, manage repositories directly from your CLI. So if you come here and you do a git create a new repo, for example. Now it is using the GitHub CLI. Say gh repo create, okay, which is the correct command if I have the GitHub CLI installed locally. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to cancel that. And I'm going to try something else. I'll say create an issue on this GitHub repo. And that's the command. So it's like the GH is mainly for generating commands that uses the GitHub CLI tool. So, okay, create an issue in my Git repository, title, let's see, tests. And this is nice. So it opened a Vim editor for me. So it's opened a Vim space for me to type in the description. of the issue. I'll say this is my first issue. Okay, and now I'm gonna write and quit this file. Oh, this is nano actually. So I'm just gonna say yes, save the file. And it has created the file. Now submit, continue in browser, add metadata. I'm gonna submit and see if that works. Oh, nice. Looks like it did create the issue. So let's go confirm. This is the repository, issues. And there we have our issue. Okay. So I already have this set up. This is pretty neat, I think. Okay, this is pretty nice. I have the issue created. So I'm just gonna close that issue temporarily. But this is really awesome. Okay, so GH close all open issues in this repository. And it's listing all the issues that are open and then running a close command in them. So I'm just gonna say yes. Now I know I don't have any open issues. So let's create a new issue and see. Create a new issue on this repository. So I'm gonna run the command and say yes. So first you need to provide a title. I'm gonna say test issue 2. Body, E to launch nano, enter to skip. So I'm just gonna press, once you start typing, I think once you press E, it launches the nano editor. Okay, so that's how it works. I'll say this is my second test issue, and we're gonna command X on nano, control X rather, with a Y to exit, and let's submit. And that creates the issue. And if we go back to our browser and refresh, you can see we have a new open issue here. So now let's close the issue again. GH close all open issues, this repository. And that's the command. I'm just gonna hit the enter key and press yes for it to do that and see if that works. Okay, so if you can't see what's happening here, it's telling me that it closed the issue, which is issue 2. Okay, so let's confirm that that actually worked. If we come here and refresh, yep, the issue is closed. So you can actually work directly with your GitHub repository using the GitHub CLI tool directly from the GH Copilot CLI, which is pretty neat. This is pretty nice. Okay, now back here we have seen the use cases for the GitHub or GH CLI tool and all of this. So that's basically what you can do with the GitHub Copilot CLI. Is it useful to you? Do you find it useful? Do you not find it useful? Leave a comment in the description. Let me know what you think about it. I'm gonna leave a link in the description as well for you to, if you want to join the Copilot waitlist, just click on the link. I'm gonna leave a link to this repository in there, so you can just click on it, sign up, enter your email, and if you're accepted, you're gonna get an invite to play out with this tool as well, just before it becomes generally available. Now, some limitations that I mentioned on the site is that it's biased towards Z shell and Linux shells, which we actually did so, because when we ran the set command on the Mac, you can see that it's missed a tiny bit of the shell command that's supposed to be generated there. And that's because it is primarily biased at the moment towards Z shell and Linux shells. Okay. Now, some recommendations from me to you if you use this tool. The first recommendation I have for you is to use it for learning and getting used to the Linux shell commands. Now, let me show you what this used to be like if you're like me and you use the shell to work a lot. Typically, when you want to find out more information about how to do certain activity, you either need the help flag. For example, if I need to know how ls works, I need to use the man ls. Okay, so man ls consult the Linux man page for the information of what the ls Linux command does for you, and then you have to read through what all the flags available are and what they do. Now this takes a lot of time, okay? And for other installed light tools, you need the help command. For example, we can do git help, for example, and this gives us information about the git command and all of that. Okay, so you may need to go through all of this to figure out how to do a particular activity. Or the third option is to just Google it, Stack Overflow, and you'll most likely find an answer that someone has used to solve some of these problems. Or with a tool like this, you can easily just jump into your terminal and do something like a git and say whatever you want to do, like, you know, create a commit or whatever, like we've seen, which I find really nice and awesome. So it's a cool tool. The next recommendation is don't run this on your production or live systems yet. As we can see, there are mistakes, so you want to revalidate all of the shell commands and make sure you're not using them on sensitive environments just yet, unless you validate them and test them out and know that they actually do work before you actually use them. Okay, so for now, I'll suggest you do not run them on live production environments. The tool is still in technical review anyway, so there's still going to be a lot of changes coming. And then finally, try to not use sensitive or private information with the GitHub Copilot CLI at the moment, because you want to keep those information secure. So occasionally, GitHub Copilot CLI collects information from your terminal as you use and work with it. But definitely you want to keep your private credentials secure. It doesn't collect any information from your environment variables and a few other places, which is nice. That's what GitHub said, which is nice according to what GitHub said, but much better to keep your private information secure and use this tool primarily for learning and getting used to the terminal command. One other thing I noticed while testing this out is you need to be on node version greater than 16.0 for this to work. If you don't have a node version greater than 16.0, you may encounter errors, which is why I noticed while working with this tool. And there you have it. Go play with it. I hope this has been helpful to you. If it has, like, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment on how you find, if you find this tool useful or if you've played with it and what your opinions are about it. So thanks for stopping by. Until the next time, see you. Have a good time. Ciao. Bye. Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to leave comments and likes on topics of interest that you'd like me to cover. I'll do my best to go through them and cover them as soon as possible. Also, most importantly, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you're kept in the loop whenever this content drops. And until then, keep hammering, keep innovating. See you.